2 Kings chapter number 20 and verse number 12. And at that time Berodach Baladan, the son of Baladan, king of Babylon, sent letters and a present unto Hezekiah, for he had heard that Hezekiah had been sick. And Hezekiah hearkened unto them, and showed them all the house of his precious things, the silver and the gold and the spices, and the precious ointment, and all the house of his armor, and all that was found in his treasures. There was nothing in his house, nor in all his dominion, that Hezekiah showed them not. Then came Isaiah the prophet unto King Hezekiah, and said unto him, What said these men? And from whence came they unto thee? And Hezekiah said, They are come from a far country, even from Babylon. And he said, What have they seen in thine house? And Hezekiah answered, All the things that are in mine house have they seen. There is nothing among my treasures that I have not showed them. And Isaiah said unto Hezekiah, Hear the word of the Lord. Behold, the days come that all that is in thine house, and that which thy fathers have laid up in store unto this day, shall be carried into Babylon. Nothing shall be left, saith the Lord. And thy sons that shall issue from thee, which thou shalt beget, shall they take away, and they shall be eunuchs in the palace of the king of Babylon. Then said Hezekiah unto Isaiah, Good is the word of the Lord, which thou hast spoken. And he said, It is not good, if peace and truth be in thy days. Now, I have read a very unusual passage of Scripture. You and I have been concerned in this study, in this chapter, with the healing of Hezekiah, and the fact that God raised Hezekiah up and healed him from his deathbed. Hezekiah prayed unto the Lord and asked God for divine healing, and God gave it to him. And then Hezekiah asked for a sign, and God gave that sign through the prophet Isaiah. He said, You'll go up and worship in the temple in 3 days. And Hezekiah, being the Jew that he was, said, What sign do I have? What evidence is there that I truly am going to go up and to worship God in the temple on the 3rd day? And we had this great, tremendous miracle of the sundial going backward by 10 degrees. Going forward would have been a natural phenomena. Even speeding up the sundial going forward, though a miracle, would have still been a part of natural phenomena. Hezekiah said, It's not anything for the sundial to go forward. I want to see the sundial go backward. I want to see it backing up. And that, my friend, would have been a tremendous miracle. And that's exactly what happened. How God did that, I think God stopped the earth spinning on its axis and then rotated the earth backward. There have been many men that deny that, but it is interesting that those that deny that also question Joshua's long day when the sun stood still, and some of them question the house of Israel crossing the Red Sea and not the Reed Sea, and crossing the Red Sea on dry land. Now, we've dealt with all of that, and I don't want to go back over that again. In verse number 12, Berodach Baladan, the king of Babylon. He is the son of Baladan. Berodach, the son of Baladan, king of Babylon, sent letters and a present unto Hezekiah, for he had heard that Hezekiah had been sick. Now, sickness is a natural phenomena of human life. All men and women at some point get sick if it's nothing more than a common cold. And then some have had very aggressive and egregious sicknesses. And it was a little more than a year ago that I spent 8 days in the hospital with acute appendicitis. And I have never been so sick in all of my life. And I rejoice in the surgeon that was able to take my appendix out and was able to flush out my intestines. And I appreciate the nurses and my family doctor for watching over me. And I rejoice in the good recovery that God has allowed me to have. I'm grateful for that, as grateful as a man can be. But sickness is a part of the human life and the human condition. There are some that are more prone to sickness than others. There are some that have a stronger constitution than others. The way of a transgressor is hard, and if you want to live well, my advice to you is to live a clean, godly life. And if you live in sin and dissipate and live a wicked, sinful life, then you'll reap the repercussions of that. There's no doubt in my mind that clean living and godly living is always a benefit and a blessing to those that live such. But I have known good and godly men that have died prematurely, and I've known very wicked men that have lived long lives. Your chances of living a long life are better if you'll live a clean life, if you'll live a dedicated life, if you'll not live a sinful life. You have a better chance of living to a ripe old age. But that is no guarantee. And Baladan heard that the man Hezekiah had been sick, and like many of you did for me while I was sick, you heard about my sickness. I received get well cards. I received some money in the mail, and I used that money to pay on the hospital bill. I didn't use $1 of that money to go out and eat. I put all of that money on my hospital bill to pay toward that 8-day hospital stay and that surgery that I had to undergo. And Baladan hears that Hezekiah has been sick, and so he does the very same thing. He writes a letter expressing his sympathy, and then he sends a present, a monetary present or whatever it might have been. He sends that present unto the man Hezekiah. And Hezekiah hearkened unto them and showed them all the house of his precious things, the silver and the gold, and the spices and the precious ointment, and all the house of his armor, and all that was found in his treasures. There was nothing in his house, nor in all his dominion, that Hezekiah showed them not. Now, I pointed out when I began this series on the man Hezekiah that we're going to see some tremendous miracles in relation to Hezekiah. There's no question in my mind that the man Hezekiah is a good and a godly man. There's no question in my mind that this man is a good and honorable and upright man. But just because a man is a good and honorable and upright man doesn't mean that man is perfect, or that man doesn't at some point make mistakes or do something that is foolish. We have the idea that if I'm, and this comes up all along, they say, well Ben, if the IRS audits you and you've paid your taxes, what do you care? Well, I care about an invasion of my privacy. I care about the money that an audit is going to cost me, because I'm going to have to pay my accountant extra, and that I may have to pay an attorney, and an audit could cost me between $5,000 and $10,000 just in paperwork and in defense and in showing that I haven't hidden anything from the federal government. Of course, I don't want them. I don't want to be audited, and then it really is none of their business. Somebody says, "Well, Brother Ben, if you don't go anywhere on the internet that you wouldn't want somebody to find out, what do you care if they track you?" Well, I don't have any passwords on my phone, and I give my phone regularly to my secretary and say, look this up or find that or do this. I have nothing on my telephone that I want to hide. But at the same time, it's really none of your business to say, Brother Ben, hand me your phone, I want to look at it, any more than it's any of my business to say, hand your phone to me, I want to look at it. It wouldn't be proper for a man to say, well, let me look at your Rolodex. I want to see the telephone numbers you have in your Rolodex. Well, that's not pertinent to anyone but my secretary, who has the Rolodex. I'm showing my age now. We still have a handwritten Rolodex on the desk. Much of that is in the computer now, but I still have an old-fashioned Rolodex, just like I have an old-fashioned ledger book in my desk that I write down receipt entries in for money that comes in. I still write that down the old-fashioned way. And we get into this matter. Now, there are some, and my time is gone, I've got to go. But Hezekiah had no business showing all of this, all of these treasures. He had no business showing this. And I know he didn't have anything to hide, but he had no business showing this. And Isaiah rebukes him for doing this. And the Lord willing, on the broadcast coming up Monday, I want to develop this and deal with this matter where Hezekiah showed all the house of the precious things. He had no business doing that. And it finally resulted in Isaiah saying, look, all of this is going to Babylon one day, including your children. I'll deal with this on coming Monday. Tomorrow, my late grandfather. God bless you, and goodbye.